TheCameronRace.com.
What is going on, guys? So I just am finishing up porting out the high ram just a little bit. So most of you guys will know, if you're going NA, most guys are gonna tell you to get the 92 millimeter Holley high ram and port it out to a 95 so you can fit the 95 millimeter throttle body, rather than getting the 103 and adapting the 105, or getting the 103 and putting the 103 on there, which is massive. You know, obviously you're probably going to make up a couple horsepower more, but to me, you have to spend so much more money on the bigger lid for the 103, and the 103 is like $750. A used one is like $675, so I'm just not into that for a throttle body. Maybe on boost I could see that happening, but you can only move so much power NA as is. I don't see it picking up that much more. So either way, I'm going with the 95, and I'm porting this out to 95, and I'm using a tool to measure how big it is. Obviously, it measured exactly to a hundredth, perfectly to 92 millimeters. So I'm at about 93 right now, so I'm still working it out, and just trying to get it big enough for a 95. So pretty much the butterfly doesn't open up all the way with a 95, and I also don't want any walls causing blockage when that throttle body's mounted on there. So just cleaning up all the edges, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with this metal flap wheel when I'm done, and that'll give it kind of a nice finish once I'm done. So I'll update you throughout the process. So just want to show you up and down vertically. We are there. If it holds itself for a second with one hand, I can show you a bit of a better angle where it's not sideways. It'll get up there to 50. So I'm pretty sure we're good there. So it's really these sides we're worried about. Showing us right at about 40 right now. So got a little bit more to go on the sides. Looks like we're pretty much there. So I think I'm going to stop there, see if the throttle body fits on tomorrow. What is going on, guys? So I actually did not film this last part of the video yesterday because I just got the throttle body in today. So here is the intake with the map sensor all bolted up. And then here is the LT5 throttle body. So it doesn't show you exactly how much work went into making this throttle body fit. I had to drill out all these bolts. I had to drill them in closer. So pretty much like maybe 1/8 of an inch closer on each one. And it took a while. I just took my time with it, but it works. And the blade opens all the way and closes all the way and does not hit the intake at all. So that's what I was hoping for, because with these 92s it will hit the intake right there if you don't port it out. That's why I had to get the Dremel out and port that out. But it all works now, it all fits, all bolts right up. I got the throttle body gasket in there, and it's snug on there. No leaks, and we should have this baby ready to rip and throw on. What is going on, guys? So we are back working on the Camaro again, and the first thing you will notice is it's missing a hood. So what I'm doing right now is I opened, I pretty much took all the plastic connectors off that held this in place, and I marked the middle of it. I marked the middle 9 inches. Since I am doing a Holley high ram, we're gonna have to break out this bad boy and the Dremel, which I've been running for a little bit, as you can tell. And I'm just working on the plastic now. I got it all finished up. I'm sanding it down, making sure it all looks even, make sure it all looks good and symmetrical, which right now, as you can tell, that looks pretty damn good. I'm pretty pleased with that. So now if I can just match it with the metal, I was gonna do the metal first, just get it out of the way, because that's what I was mainly scared of doing. But it was quite hard, even with propped up with M12 batteries and tape measures. It's quite hard to get this up enough to be able to cut the metal safely and, you know, to where I could see it and get a clean cut on it. I got the MPVI-2 with the AEM wideband with the gauge for the vent pod right here. So I'm gonna have to get in here soon, drop that, drop the fuse box, pretty much do a shit ton of wiring with that. And then once I finish that up, then technically the car will be ready to go. I got the intake all done, throttle body done. Really all I have to do is extend the map sensor, and then I guess fast forward to a couple days, I've moved on. I've decided to wait until I get my heads done, which they're still not done, by the way. As you can see, I am installing the AEM performance gauge, and it is not all here yet. I also bought the MPVI-2 with 8 credits for the trans and the engine, so that Brett can work his magic. Brett from Prey Performance can work his magic once we're done. And right now, as you can see, I have the thing torn apart. I'm swapping this over to the new gauge pod I have. Fits right in there, and that gauge is going to sit right there, and it'll be a lot easier to read than replacing this dash pod and having one up there and all that. So just taking this out, figured it'd be the easiest way to go about it. And it's really not that difficult at all. It just I connected a wideband under the car to the O2 sensor, or well, it is an O2 sensor, and just replaces the stock one. That's pretty much all it looks like. And I went ahead and took the sound tube off right there, and this bolts up just like that. Took that bolt off, took the sound tube off, and I was gonna cut it, but I really didn't want to cut it just in case I needed it again. So I went ahead and ended up finding out that it just comes off. Turn a little to the right and it pulls out, and stick that wire right down in there, and it goes right into the cockpit. So once that's done, I have to get that into there, and then this right here plugs into the wire that comes up from the O2 sensor right down there, and I ran it up tightly up through one of these hardline pullers or holders, and it actually fits perfect right in there. So I can just fasten it right there, and then I'll have it tucked up somewhere back behind here. And then once that is done, this plugs into the OBD2 on that side, and then this side is where you plug in your MPVI-2, or if a tuner wants to hook up to it, it's where you hook up to it. And then this side goes into the gauge on the back side of the gauge. As you can see, there's 2 connections there. On the other side of that wire is the other connection. So that connects to one side of the gauge, the other side connects to that, and then you need to find a 12-volt switch and a ground, which the cigarette lighter, which I have almost good access to on the other side, that line should stretch far enough to get down through there, and there's a ground right there, if you can see that. Or if not, I'm gonna have to use a ground right under there and find a 12 volt in one of these switches that is activated when the car is always on for the gauge. So as you can see, got the console out, got it lifted up. It's literally 10 millimeter there, and on the other side right where that is, and then 2 10 millimeters right here under the knee bolsters. Super easy. And this plugs into the 12 volt, and it's super obvious because it plugs into the 12 volt. And you got your ground, which is black, and power, which is the 12 volt to the car lighter, obviously. So I'm gonna pull these two out. I'm gonna cut this black stuff back quite a bit up here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and tap into these two wires, route the wires for the other side through there and up and around. So we should be good. I'll update you guys when I get done. Guys, so I figured I'd make this video. I actually have power for the first time. This is crazy. Obviously nothing's hooked up, nothing's really done. I still have the heads to put on, but either way, I mean, it still has power for the first time this year, so big feat for me. This gauge about to get installed. The pod will be here Wednesday along with the MPVI 2 with the credits, which will be sick. But for now, I tapped into the 12 volt right there. As you can see, my wiring looks really bad, but it really isn't. I just spliced into the power and the ground that go into the 12 volt lighter right there, and should be plenty to hold my thing. And then I'm gonna hardwire my radar detector, so that alleviates a little bit of stress off that thing. So I'm gonna get that done, plug that back in, and then I'm gonna put this dash back down, and I'll get back to you when this dash is back down. Actually, before we put the dash back down, I wanted to show you guys what I have here. So with those all hooked in right there, if I go ahead and plug this gauge in, go ahead and power on the car. As you can see, we're reading it. Works perfect. Now that's just gonna sit literally right behind there and sit right there while I'm driving. And it'll look pretty sick. It kind of blends, the red will blend with the needles and everything on the gauges. It'll look awesome. And I really cannot wait. It's gonna be super exciting. And can't wait for you guys to see the final touch. Thought you guys might want to see where that plug came off of. So that's the 12 volt right up there. It plugs in just to the bottom of it. And as you can see, my wire runs right here from the AEM into the ground and into the power, the red into the power. Purple is power, obviously. Black is ground. Again, obviously. Hate to state the obvious, but some people don't know that. This could be someone's first electrical job. And I'm gonna get these wires finished routed up through here, get some black zip ties in, cut them off, and then I'll show you my final mounting position with the gauge. Okay, so I also just figured out if I route my 12 volt in and plug in my radar detector, it still works with my gauge. So I don't have the gauge pod yet. It should be here Wednesday, like I was saying, with my MPVI 2. They shipped out separately, which sucks, but happens sometimes. So got that in, got a little too antsy, had to install without the gauge pod. So gonna be doing that this week, and then once I get that gauge in there, I'll show you guys what it looks like. And then it also works right there, the way I wired it and everything. I put this back in, it sits nice, no trans problems, no nothing. So we're still looking good, and headlights still work. I'm just so excited. So excited to drive this thing, like you don't even know. I'm trying not to move the steering wheel much because the steering wheel is disconnected right now, so if you move it much, it can throw the ABS off. So I'm trying not to touch it at all. That's exactly how it was when I parked it. Maybe right there, but either way. All right, guys, so I have disconnected the battery. Everything is done. So under here, what I went ahead and did